The date is the 27th of January 2018. The location, Daytona Beach, Florida. Thousands of racing fans have descended on the Daytona International Speedway for the 2018 rendition of the 24 Hours of Daytona, a multi-class event that's been running since 1962. The field is stacked with names you will be familiar with: Felipe Nasr, Paul di Resta, Bruno Senna, Alex Brundle, Antonio Felix da Costa, Pato O'Ward, Scott Dixon, Sebastian Bourdais, Lance Stroll, Kevin Magnussen's daddy Jan, and the one Pablo Montoya. But take a look at the number 23 car in the prototype class, and you'll find a young Lando Norris and a younger than he is now but still pretty old Fernando Alonso together competing as teammates. So how the hell did this come about? How did they do in the race, and will we ever see this again? Well, my name's Tommo. Let's talk about it. 2017 and 18 proved to be two very difficult years for Fernando Alonso in Formula 1. Racing alongside Stoffel Vandoorne in a McLaren that just wasn't on its job, was it? It was nowhere, especially in 2017. 2017 reeked P9 in the Constructors' Championship with Fernando Alonso at the wheel. What are you doing? He only managed 5 point scoring finishes all season, for crying out loud. 2018 was better, up to P6 in the Constructors, but when this Daytona 24 happened, that was prior to the 2018 F1 season even starting. Fernando at the time was gunning for the Triple Crown, you see. He'd won the Monaco Grand Prix twice in 2006 and 7, so that was one ticked off the list. He tried out the Indy 500 just 8 months prior, loaning out his McLaren F1 seat to Jenson Button at Monaco. Unfortunately, things didn't quite pan out as he would have hoped. Even though he qualified on the second row, an incredible job, made his way up to P1 by lap 37. However, by lap 180, heartbreak, his Andretti Honda McLaren car conked out, retirement, damn. So that leaves the third of the Triple Crown, the Le Mans 24 Hour. Fernando had ambitions to give it a go in 2018 and saw the Daytona 24 as the perfect place to benchmark himself, give himself a challenge, prepare himself. That great race isn't until June, whereas again Daytona 24 was in January, also in the winter break for Formula 1, so it timed up perfectly for him. At the time, Zak Brown spoke on how Fernando made it pretty clear he wanted to do the Daytona 24. We were in Singapore 2017, got our F1 deal done for 2018, and as soon as we mentally crossed the bridge of getting that sealed, it wasn't 2 minutes later that he said, I want to do Daytona. As Fernando does, he kind of chats about things, doesn't really tell you what he's thinking, and then out of the blue he goes, I want to do it. And spoiler alert, as we all know, Fernando did go on to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2018, alongside Sebastian Buemi and Kazuki Nakajima in the Toyota Gazoo Racing entries. So perhaps this preparation at Daytona did end up paying dividends. Just that Indy 500 left now, eh? I really hope he gets it. If any driver of this modern age deserves a Triple Crown, it's absolutely Fernando Alonso. Max is definitely going for it as well. Max in an Aston Martin Valkyrie in like 2029, winning the Le Mans 24 Hour, bookmark it, it's happening. But what about little Nando? Lando Norris. At the time, he'd just come off the back of a pretty convincing European F3 title win and narrowly losing out on the Macau Grand Prix P2, half a second behind winner Dan Ticktum. Lando had only joined the McLaren Junior program less than 12 months prior to the Daytona 24 in February 2017. But it already made an impression with Zak Brown, so much so that it already made Lando the team's reserve driver for their 2018 season. Therefore, with Fernando wanting to do the Daytona 24, of course, this was a massive opportunity for Zak to introduce Lando to this highly competitive environment alongside the most experienced Formula 1 driver of all time. It was a no-brainer, right? You can't help seeing how Lando comes on. He and Fernando get along really well, so more than anything, it will be a great opportunity for them to bond and continue to build their relationship. Lando is going to learn from Fernando how he conducts himself and how he prepares for a race. It will be very beneficial for Lando. Norris had only turned 18 a couple of months prior to this Daytona 24 Hours, so a certain degree of risk going on for sure, but more than anything, this was an opportunity to really showcase what this hotshot new talent, the future of McLaren, has to offer. And in fact, we only found out fairly recently, confirmed by Helmut Marko on the Inside Line podcast, that they literally had a Toro Rosso contract for Lando Norris for 2019, but McLaren found out about it and vetoed it and promoted him to their seat, as they should have. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Bear in mind, this Daytona 24 happened before Lando had even turned a wheel in Formula 2, a championship where he only won one race all season, but finished second behind George Russell, unparalleled consistency ahead of Alex Albon and Nick de Vries. Fernando knew full well that racing with McLaren and McLaren under Zak Brown meant there were the potential for other opportunities outside of Formula 1. This Daytona 24 seat was facilitated by Zak Brown and his own team, United Autosport. Zak founded the team in 2009, has since achieved 2 LMP2 Le Mans 24-hour wins, multiple wins in the European and American Le Mans series, plus a bunch of success across a ton of GT and sports car categories. So that's the team, but what about the package they were bringing to the 2018 Daytona 24? Well, prototype class, operated by United Autosports, in the Ligier JSP217 chassis, powered by a Gibson-built 4.2 litre V8. 600 brake horsepower in a car weighing just 930 kilograms. These cars could seriously shift. However, unfortunately, compared to the Cadillac DPI and the Acura ARX-05, the Ligier just didn't seem to have the performance relative to those top runners in the prototype class. A deficit we'll get onto a bit more. But finally, the third driver. You need at least 3 drivers to compete in the 24. Who would fill that final position? Step forward, Phil Hansen. Phil was only 18 years old himself at the time, and has since remained racing for United Autosports, helping them achieve much of their success across ALMS, ELMS, with him at the wheel. It was very much 36-year-old Uncle Fernando with his 2 18-year-old nephews. But the speed of the drivers was never the problem here. Unfortunately, the car let them down. Fernando Alonso took the wheel in qualifying but only managed a P13 finish, almost a second off pole sitter Renger van der Sande in his Cadillac DPI. Come on, Fernando is never qualified a second behind anyone in equal machinery. So the Ligier was definitely racing at a deficit. And you know what? No matter, because come race start, Fernando used his experience racing the first time ever in a closed cockpit, by the way, and managed to move through the field. By the end of his first stint, he was within touching distance of the top 5. And again, qualified P13. Then Lando jumped in and things got even better. To quote Fernando here, the stint he did, Lando, was very impressive. The teamwork, the preparation, the focus, even in wet conditions. His first time in a prototype car, he recovered 33 seconds over 20 laps, something like that. He's an 18-year-old, so that's very impressive. Lando recovered so well, in fact, that when he came into the pits at the end of his stint, they were sitting P1 in class. I didn't know what position I was in. It was only when I came into the pits that I saw I was P1. So far, so good. Unfortunately, this is where things began to unravel. When Phil jumped into the car, but it wasn't actually on Phil, they were just mad unlucky. He had a rear right tyre blowout whilst turning into the high-speed left-right bus stop chicane at Daytona, tearing up his bodywork and requiring a new engine cover and rear wing at the stop. Fernando jumped into the car to replace Phil once the car was ready to go back out again, and then had his own problem with the brakes this time, a problem that was so bad the team spent 40 minutes replacing the brake master cylinder. 40 minutes. Race done. No chance. Competitive finish was out the door. Unfortunately, this is just what happens in 24-hour racing sometimes. By the time Lando got back into the car after it was repaired, 26 laps down from the lead. Damn. The team would go on to finish P13 in class, P38 overall. A tough day in the office with an inherent car disadvantage and just some mad bad luck. But to be fair, it was the experience that was the main reason certainly Fernando and Lando were there, and they certainly got that. The finishing position was relative immaterial. And not to let it hang over him, Fernando returned the following year at the 2019 24 Hours of Daytona and won the prototype class, alongside Jordan Taylor, Renger van der Sande, and F1 legend Kamui Kobayashi. Now that's, Fernando, what I like to call karma. Good karma. It does kind of make you think, doesn't it? If Fernando hadn't got so disillusioned with Formula 1, as he understandably did by 2018, him and Lando in that 2019 McLaren would have been really interesting. But then again, by that point, he'd had 17 years in Formula 1, only won 2 titles, and I think we all agree that his talent merited more than that. Perhaps 2 years away is exactly what he needed, and is why we've got a reinvigorated Fernando Alonso in 2024, still doing bits. Although Aston are certainly testing his patience on that front right now, aren't they? McLaren managed a P4 Constructors finish in 2019 with Norris and Sainz at the wheel. What could Fernando have done? But I guess we'll never know. At least we got an opportunity to see them as teammates at the Daytona 24 Hours maybe again. I want to see more F1 drivers doing these events. It's in January. Max Verstappen, 24 hours of Daytona, January 2025. Get it done, mate. Surely he's up for that. Red Bull can't cry about, oh, we're not going to let Max race outside of Formula 1. Max holds all the cards right now because Red Bull are absolutely nowhere. Aston Martin, just create an IndyCar team literally just for Fernando. Please. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new and you want to see more. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.